Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The October meeting of the Economic Development Authority of the City of Lynchburg is now in session. It has been called to order. I'll go through the roll call for the purposes of declaration. Mark Strohsnyder is here. John Stone.
Here.
Bill Lovern.
Here.
Louise Mitchell.
Here.
George-Ann Sneed. Andy Mueller. I think Andy's texted in. He's going to join us in a few minutes, and George-Ann will.
George-Ann is on her way in.
Great. Okay. Hope everyone's had a chance to look at and peruse the minutes from the September 17 meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or additions, deletions that need to be addressed? And if none, does someone have a motion to accept and approve?
I'll make a motion to it. Go ahead, John.
To approve, or I'll second Bill.
John Stone second. Motions have been made and seconded. All those in favor of approving and adopting the minutes as presented signify by saying aye. I'll go through the roll call. Mark Strohsnyder, yay. John Stone.
Yay.
Bill Lovern.
Yay.
Louise Mitchell.
Yes.
George-Ann Sneed.
Yay.
And Andy to follow. Next item on the agenda is the Capron contract and EDA investment policy. Margette, do you want to start with this?
Yeah, and Ted's going to jump in here too. I'll just kind of set it up, and that is, you know, Bill had asked me as secretary treasurer. He reviews the Capron reports that come in, and they're in you all's Dropbox as well. But the Capron reports that come into monthly. And he just asked me about the investment policy, which I had totally forgotten about. So I had a call with Mike Hoover with Capron just to go over some accounting differentials there. We had Brown Edwards on the phone. And I asked Mike, I said, Mike, just to make sure that I have, you know, the latest and the most up-to-date copy of everything, please send me a copy of the Capron contract and the investment policy. So he sent me the contract, and he sent me and attached to that contract is the investment policy that the EDA executed in 2010 when this account was set up. So really appreciated Bill bringing that up, and just wanted to, I sent all of that back through to Ted, you know, to review. And from my understanding, the Capron contract is the responsibilities that are outlined in the investment policy are being carried out by Capron in their contract. They are directed by what is in the EDA's investment policy, and that Capron comes once a year to go over the portfolio and report out results. And I just want to make sure, I'm going to make sure that we have the contract and the investment policy in your handbook and in your Dropbox. And that we review, I put up for your review, the investment policy, you know, once a year to go through that. So I'll let Ted, that is about the depth of my.
Well, when the authority decided, and this is 2010, I think, the authority decided to try to generate some additional income. Previously, all the authority funds had simply been in savings accounts and certificates of deposit in local banking institutions. And the authority adopted a very detailed investment policy, which I just told Margette I thought it was time that I was glad Bill raised it, because I think it ought to be reviewed again. I think it certainly complies with the Public Finance Act. but there's an investment committee that is to be the chairman, the the secretary treasurer and the assistant secretary treasurer. Of course, we don't have an assistant now because Jerry resigned, but I just thought it'd be a good idea to look at the whole thing again. And Margette said she was going to put it in the Dropbox. I assume it's in there.
It's in the
And-
packet.
It's in the packet. It's in the packet for today.
Oh, it is? Okay. And I just think we ought to take a look at it again. It has been a while since it's been looked at, and I think that there's more responsibility that's sort of dumped on the secretary treasurer, and I think it really ought to be on the whole investment committee.
can you
on the
do-
truth.
Can you go to the opportunity website?
I'm sorry. I don't think I did anything.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Anyway, I just thought it would be a good idea to look at it again. I know Mike Hoover and Eddie Horner have come and made presentations. I'm not sure whether it's been on an annual basis, but I know we did one within the last.
Lynchburg website.
I know we did.
And you click, there's a button there that says the EDA meeting.
Ted, Mike, they have been coming annually,
Right. Okay.
which is one of the provisions
Right,
of the.
yeah, thanks.
Well, I just thought it'd be, I thought it might be timely that, as Bill requested, that we take a look at it again. The investment policy complies with the Public Finance Act. They are very careful to make sure that they stay short so that there's money available when it's needed. And I'm not an investment guru by any means, but John Stone might have an idea on how how short they ought to be. I think we've left it up to Catherine to make the decisions, and I think that's the way it ought to be. But
Ted, in
we
lieu of
do.
not having an assistant treasurer secretary, would we need to make a motion if we? and
we
I'll-
could
I'll-
adopt, you could make a motion to amend somebody could make a motion to amend the policy.
To add to it
to
as the
have
vice
have the vice chairman.
because between Bill
become
and
a-
John, we've got a whole lot
So
more
that
expertise.
would be the chairman, the vice chairman, the secretary treasurer.
I'll make that motion.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
So I should know this. Do we have an investment committee? Is it the same as the finance committee?
No, it's not. The investment committee consists of the chairman, the secretary treasurer, and the assistant secretary treasurer.
Oh, and they meet?
Well,
Really?
It's a very
No.
prompt.
Okay,
It's not a scheduled committee, a standing committee.
Okay.
just an
Sorry.
ad hoc committee that's appointed by the chairman.
thank you.
But until we have an assistant secretary treasurer in place, I would like to make the motion that we add John Stone or add the vice chair to that committee.
I'll second that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, Mark Strohsnyder, yes. John Stone?
Sure.
Thank you, John. Bill Lovren,
Yes, I'm for it.
Louise Mitchell?
Yes.
George Ann Sneed?
Yes.
And Andy, are you with us?
I am, and since I missed part of the discussion, I'm going to abstain, but I'm certainly not opposed.
Okay.
Sounds great. Welcome aboard. Okay, so we will try to get together and just sort of review this, and if we have any other recommendations, it's a pretty exhaustive policy that seems to cover a lot of territory, but if there's anything that needs to come back to the committee for.
I think it certainly follows the Public Finance Act, so I'm in favor of it.
Does anyone else have any questions concerning the contract, the EDA investment policy? If not, we will go on to, we'll welcome Kent White, who's going to talk about the CARES community funding update. Good morning, Kent.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see you all again. I appreciate you having me back. So before you today is an addendum to the performance agreement for interfaith outreach. We briefly discussed this last month that we were hoping and cautiously optimistic they would be submitting a request for the balance of the funding that they initially requested. You recall Interfaith Outreach does utility assistance grants for persons impacted by COVID who are low to moderate income. So a significant part of our workforce. What they're requesting of you today is to amend the agreement, and you can see this in the red line copy immediately following this item on your agenda. They were requesting an additional $75,000. That'll bring the total available to them is $150,000. They can use 10% of that for grant administration. And then to date, we've received a draw for $44,500 approximately. So what you can see is they've got about 2 months left to administer these grants in accordance with CARES funds. So they're going ahead and getting the balance. They've seen their demand pick up significantly. There's also a minor housekeeping item in the agreement. You'll see that we are clarifying that utilities also include gas and water, gas and sewer services, in addition to electric and water. Those just weren't explicit. They were implied, of course, but they weren't explicitly spelled out in the scope. So we just want to make sure that's clear for everyone. We really appreciate your continued patience. Again, I fully expect to be back with you each month. We are very hopeful that Lynchburg Community Action Group will be requesting a similar amendment to the agreement next month, and with the goal of spending all of this by December 13th. And then just, of course, as a reminder, all of this funding is reimbursable to the Economic Development Authority through the city's CARES grants. So thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Kent, unrelated, is LNCAG do they seem to be using a lot of their proceeds now?
That's a great question. I'll walk quickly through the spending updates. I have those available for you. So as we mentioned, Interfaith has helped 62 households with electric and 18 with water so far. That's the balance of their $44,458. LNCAG has spent about $10,000, 1 on mortgage and 4 on rent assistance. But they've indicated they are seeing both their rental and mortgage assistance picking up. So their cash flow will allow them a little more flexibility. So they're okay with waiting until next month till they have a little more demand to show before requesting the additional funds. Miriam's house, we're having an ongoing discussion with them with all of the moratoriums on housing, which of course is a really good thing from the standpoint of no evictions. They're seeing their demands to place persons experiencing homelessness down, their low vacancy rates. There are 2 downsides to this. One, of course, this moratorium is impacting a lot of landlords in the area, and we know that this is just pushing a bubble further down the road, if you will. The other thing is, of course, that we're not seeing this lack of availability of affordable housing that the city already has. We're seeing that kind of amplified in this situation. So I only say that to say we're hopeful that there will be similar assistance available in the next 6 to 8 months, because we'll likely just be pushing this component of need out further. So
Great. Does anyone would anyone like to make or does anyone have any other questions of Kent right now?
I had one, Mark. have the funds been distributed to the EDA yet? Do
I think
know?
we have, I think the EDA has received their business support grants. I don't know if there's been a draw request for these community service funds, but they're available. The codes are available at any time. So if that's not the case, we'll certainly do that when we fulfill this next draw.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we have received 350,000,
Awesome.
and we've already reimbursed Interfaith one reimbursement.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Anna.
Thanks, Anna. Would someone like to make a motion to accept the amended version of the agreement with CARES community funding for interfaith outreach?
Sure, yes. This is John. I will make that motion to authorize the chair to amend the performance agreement as discussed.
Thank you, John. Do we have a second?
This
Bill
is
Lover.
Louise. I second.
Thank you, Louise. Motion's been made and seconded that we amend the existing agreement. We'll vote on that now. Mark Strohsnyder is a yes. John Stone,
Yes.
Bill Lovern,
Yes.
Louise Mitchell,
Yes.
Georgianne Sneed,
Yes.
Andy Mueller.
Yes.
Let me just, a point of clarification for Kent. Kent, how many different contracts do I need to make sure that Mark signs before he leaves? He is physically in the office today?
Awesome.
So
two copies of that blank contract would be great.
Okay, and is that the one copy that we needed signed from the last meeting, where we get that one signed and one of this, right? Like what I'm asking you is what we did last time in default, and what we're doing this time is we're signing a new contract for them, and therefore I'll get 2 copies signed so you can leave one, take them to, is this Interfaith or LNCAG? I mean,
Right, so we need to get the
I'm all
one
straight.
additional LNCAG signed and then 2 copies of the interfaith
Okay,
that we're approving today.
thank you.
Thanks.
And
Thank you all.
Kent,
sorry.
can I ask one more question? Can you give,
Sure.
I know there's an event on Saturday, just a quick update on what that is, and I know that's related to this.
Sure, absolutely, Anna. So another aspect of the community development block grant funding that we've pushed out a little bit because of this CARES funding to help the community is the preparation of Go kits, emergency kits for families in need. They include things like bottles of hand sanitizer, face masks, information on these assistance programs. So there'll be an event at Miller Park from 10 to 2. All are welcome to come and pick up those kits. We'll have resource staff available there, and not just has this been a great community effort in terms of getting the kits out, but I tell you, packing 5,000 Go kits was an effort among itself, and there were a lot of people who volunteered, but most notably the University of Lynchburg lacrosse team. And if you want to see a group in action, those young men were able to come in and tear down pallets over the course of 3 hours and pack those kits. Just something to be witnessed, I will say. So, I think there's video. I'm pretty sure I was the one in the background breathing heavy while they were doing the work. So.
Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you, Kent, for your
Thank you.
participation this morning, and we'll get those contracts to you. Next item is the PWXT lease agreement. Rick, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm probably not visually, but can you hear me?
We
I can
can.
hear you.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You got the floor.
Oh, okay. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, I got a call from a Cushman Wakefield agent out of Charlotte. who said, quote, "Hey, we have the BWXT contract, and due to COVID, we want to see if the landlord there in Lynchburg will reduce our rent some if we agree to sign a two-year lease rather than just go with a 1-year option that they have coming up." And so I talked with Margette. I went back and forth with them on several. There was some negotiations, and we ended up at the numbers that you have before you. We've been getting a lot of this in our industry, and to be honest with you, we've had some companies that legitimately needed it, and I think we've had some that are taking advantage of the situation. I don't know what the case is here, but in my opinion, if we could get them to extend for 2 years, it might be worth giving them just a little bit of a break on the rent, as is outlined in that amendment, just so we don't have to, we know we got them committed for at least 2 more years.
What's the amount, the monthly amount now, Rick?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Well, I don't know whether Margette passed out that little spreadsheet that I had done.
Right. Hey, Mark,
I don't.
right now, the monthly rent through November 30th of this year is $32,619.33 a month.
We have to fight together.
So we're going to keep it the same for next year, and then it would be a small escalator.
That's
for
the proposal. And we've been after them to sign a longer term lease for about 10 years.
Yes, that's right.
Every year, you know, they of course they want to keep it off their balance sheet. I mean, but they're a good corporate citizen. We want to certainly keep them in that building
And have some stability with the lease income off of that building.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Sorry, so what is the total reduction of revenue?
Well, there's really no reduction. It's just
It
leaving it
stays-
the same for next year.
Stays
okay.
the same.
Mm-hmm.
But reduction over what it would have been.
Well,
Oh,
no,
well,
it's,
it would have been. Go ahead.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Lease would have ended.
yeah, it
Okay.
was coming up for its annual renewal at the end of November. So
Correct.
they're proposing to keep it the same for the next
Another
year.
year.
All escalated, but at least they're committing to 2 years now instead of coming back on an annual basis and renegotiate.
Are they using the entire space?
Yes. Yeah. And they've pretty much outfitted it to conform to their needs. I mean,
They spent right much money on it.
I have a question. The current amount, 32.6, is ends the end of November. So it was up about $1,000 a month after that, and then the second year it's $1,000 a month. So are we willing to now hold them to the 32.6 for the next 2 years, and that's a loss of $36,000 over 2 years, based other than what we plan to escalate? Is that about right? Does that make sense? 36,000 over 2 years.
actually would be 24,000 over 2
Well,
years.
well, the second year it was going to go to 34.6 from 32.6, but now it was going to stay at 33.6. So that second year, which we would have accelerated another $1,000 a month, we're not getting that either.
But
Correct.
that's the case, Bill, if they would have continued on and
back.
exercised their option in that lease.
What is the chance of them leaving?
Not much, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. They've been here 10 years, and you know what? It's really is it a bluff that they want to keep the rent here, and there's no way they can exit this property, or is there a chance they would exit this property if we don't give them a 2-year lease?
Well, the only chance I could think is Framatome's got about that much square footage available in their building over on Old Forest Road.
Yeah.
But they would love to lease to them.
Yeah, I mean they may
They
jump ship. I mean, I
also,
would.
they also, since all of y'all are in the know, they also, BWXT has taken over a facility from Framatome in Campbell County where they have plenty of room.
That was part of the transaction around the sale of the services company.
Correct.
Bill, I understand where you're coming from, but I also, I'm not enough of a gambler to want to put this to the test, because, you know, knowing that we've got 2 years worth of income contractually, they're contractually obligated to, if we had to find somebody else to fill that building right now, there's going to be a lot of empty space in town.
Mark, let me just say that Margette and Rick gave me the information I needed to be fine with that. I just needed to know what their alternatives were, and now I know, so that's fine.
So Rick, your recommendation is that we go ahead and enter into the 2-year term.
If it was me personally and it was my building, that's what I would do.
Does anyone else have any other questions
And Rick,
or concerns for Rick?
Rick, they have agreed to go for the 2 years.
Yes, that's what they said. They'll do 2 years. They didn't ask for another option, another 3-year option, but I went ahead and put it in the amendment just so it would be there, so we don't have to go through and renegotiate numbers.
All right.
Rick, I'm not real good at math. I assume that's about a 3% escalator per year. Is that right?
Yeah, it's something like that. Let me get up. I don't have my calculator.
About $1,000.
Yeah. I just ran it on the calculator. It's 3%.
I mean, essentially what we've done is we've left the rent the same, and then from here on out, it's pretty much the same increase that we'd agreed to previously.
And we know the building's occupied for 2 years.
That's for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Looks good to me.
They always ask for something. Mm-hmm.
Does somebody feel inclined to make a motion that we accept the proposal as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded by Andy.
Yep.
All right, we'll go through the roll. All those in favor of accepting the new improved lease agreement with BWXT, signify by saying aye. Mark Strohsnyder, yes. John Stone.
Aye.
Bill Lover.
Aye.
Louise Mitchell.
Yes.
Georgianne Sneed.
Yes.
Andy Mueller.
Yes.
Okay. Rick, please go back to your contact and let them know we've got an agreement. Thank you for working on this, taking care of this.
No problem. We'll do. Folks, take care.
Thanks, Rick.
All right.
Thanks, Rick.
Next item on the agenda is a staff report, and I'll turn it over to Margette.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah, and in your Dropbox too is the rate, and I'm sure Bill looked at it, which bless it, I'm so grateful, is that Rick did a little comparison on all that, and it's in the meeting folder, in the Dropbox folder. I thought I had put it in the in your packet, but I don't see it in there. So if you wanted to look at the comparison, you know, line by line, it's in your meeting folder. I'm trying to copy it now and put it in the chat so that you all can see it. Maybe Anna can help me. It's in the meeting folder, Anna, and
I'll be happy to.
it's a scanned thing, and I was trying to get to it while y'all were talking, so I apologize about that. So we're in the third round, and Anna can give you some particulars on it, but the third round of the business recovery, CARES Act Business Recovery Grant Program, this has been not only getting the account set up and making sure that we try to communicate with as many people as possible, which is probably about 3,000 businesses within the city. I would put the efforts of my team here up against any municipality in the Commonwealth in trying to have people know that this money is available. The first round began in September. The second round was in the second week in September and added nonprofits to the group. And then this third round is pretty much everybody that's got a business license, has paid business personal property or machinery and tools, or has business professional and occupational license with the city, as well as nonprofits. So it's pretty much if you can show a loss from COVID and you're captured in the city's records, and you, the Commissioner of Revenue's records, and you sustained a loss during COVID, you're pretty much eligible. And on the nonprofit side, it's just you're a nonprofit, you're located in the city, and if you can demonstrate that you sustained any kind of loss. So we will run this third group until the end of October. And we are also, so the first payments, obviously with the EDA having to set up checking accounts and roll all this through there, we also have ACH. So we felt like that is a better way for the, a much quicker way for people to receive their funds. But I will tell you that with everybody working as hard as they possibly can, including Bill Lovern, who's had to sign 4 million pieces of paper, Ted reviewing the documents, Bank of the James, Anna, Melissa have done an unbelievable job in keeping up with all this. And this is new to all of us. We will probably, the first payments will probably go out the last week in October. We have to do a test run next week to make sure that everything is working properly. And so those funds will go out at that point in time. And Anna can kind of give you an update. If you all have any kind of questions, I think all of us are ambassadors for this program. We've had a lot of surprises, especially Anna, in working with city staff in understanding the commissioner's office and how they track things and all of that. So we've had to all have another level of patience here with trying to get all that done. But Anna can tell you the numbers on what we've had apply so far.
Sure. In round one that closed September 8th, we had 145 applications in the businesses. We had 91 applications in the round that closed September 30th. 33 nonprofits applied in that time period as well. So I do expect now that we've increased eligibility and we've also revised the range of possible grant amounts that are available, I do expect at least 100 applications in this last round, 100 additional applications, I hope. So the key component at this point is that folks were registered with the city as of March 1st. We've had some people obviously want to get registered all of a sudden. So we're having to kind of make that call and just know that you were in business and registered with the city pre-COVID, and then can demonstrate a loss due to COVID, which everyone is able to do that is applying. And those that aren't applying, which was our intent all along. So it has been a pretty intense amount of staff work to process applications, check them for completion, follow up with the businesses, and then, again, getting all of this organized and ready to go out the door. So we've been working pretty hard on that. Our entire team has been assigned calls and done emails and follow up and processed applications. So, I mean, it really has been an all hands on deck effort. And hopefully we'll get as many in the door by the end of the month as we can. And this will be our final deadline. This money has to be spent by the end of the year, and we need to be ready to report on, the outcomes of that. So this will be our final deadline. We won't open it again after October 30th. So if you know anybody, any business that needs to check this out, please share that with your colleagues and those that you do business with.
Anna, what's the range of the grants that have been?
The range is they're posted on the website, and they're by employment. So the more employees you have, the higher the grant amount will be. But they will range from $3,000 to $20,000 for those that have 100 employees. We're capped at 100 employees. So hopefully that is a meaningful amount for folks. And I will say too, we have tried to do as much outreach to the CPA community as we possibly can. There has been some confusion there because there has been confusion from the federal government about how CARES money can be spent. And but it is, the policy is that if you have received any other CARES funding, a lot of people received the payroll protection program back in the spring. You are eligible for this funding as well. You're also eligible for funding from the state. You just have to certify that you're using funds for different expenses in different period of time. So if someone received PPP for payroll in March and April, they can use this money for payroll in August and September. It just has to be for a different period of time or a different expense. So that's been so any clarification that you all have in the world of, accounting or CPAs or financial professionals or legal support, that you can share with your colleagues is very helpful, that their clients are eligible for this funding, even if they've received other CARES funding.
Anna?
Yes.
What is the chance of us spending all the money that's offered to us? And if not, what percentage do you think we'll spend?
Based on my calculate just kind of where we are now and what I think will come in, I think we're relatively close. I would say we're around 3.5 million. So of the 4 million that was allotted for this program, and we're working, as Marjette can certainly tell you, and Kent as well, that we're working with the long-term recovery team to make sure that we're updating them on a regular basis on where we are with the program, and they are able to redeploy any funding to other needs that are on that list of requests from other areas of the city.
Thank you.
Anna, the funds have to be spent by December 31, not December 13th. Is that correct?
December 30th, I believe, is the actual date.
It's December 30th. Ted, I said December 13th. That's the deadline we gave to the community service providers to give us time to reconcile all the payments.
Thank you, Ken.
Yes, sir.
Anna, this is still, it's 5 million and under in revenue. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's 5 million and under in revenue, Georgianne, as it pertains to your business license. If you just pay machinery and tools, or BPP or any of that kind of stuff, it's different. So if you want to talk to me about that.
Yeah, no, we don't have a loss to apply, thank the good Lord, but I was just thinking of other people. And so you're saying that $25 million business that only submits 5 and under in machine tools is eligible. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. And that speaks to, Georgianne, what I said earlier about how Anna and I have had to learn how the taxing structure, how Mitch calculates things and how we look at all this. So
right. Yeah.
That has been for us, that has been some of the, the more challenging things as we try to look at this, because there's always, there's differences in the way, people are taxed and listed
Right.
And one of the things we've tried to do from the very beginning is to really, instead of just putting it out there and having people, you know, trying to decide, am I eligible or not, is to really have the names of everybody that we know within the city, and how they are registered with the city, and being able to tell what it was from that. Because we just felt like people were going to be so completely overwhelmed by all these programs. We wanted to try to make it, even though I don't know we all the way succeeded, but as simple as possible, just to say, you're on this list, you're eligible.
Right.
And we're calling you, you know, snail mailing you. We want to let you all know, because City Council was so incredibly generous in the money that we received, allocating such a large portion of that to go right back to the business community. And I think the other thing that we have been working on is just the fact that you can't owe the city any money in order to receive these funds. And so we have to rely on all the other, you know, city collections and finance and all that. We're having them, as people apply, make sure that we don't have any outstanding issues there.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Georgianne.
You're welcome. And so we are also working, we have a prospect visit next week, shockingly. And I think, as Kent and myself will say, our business hasn't slowed down in terms of what's going on out with a lot of our advanced manufacturers. I'm really excited about what our anchor partnerships are evolving to include. So we are working feverishly too on a reset for the blueprint, and we reached out to an awful lot of you all to serve on a task force just to give us feedback. And we're taking that information, and we should have a draft document for that task force to review with us, like by, you know, within the next few weeks. So we have been working on all of that as well. We've also done, Anna and Emmeline have the James River Arts and Cultural District, which always operates with funding a year in arrears. There won't be much funding in 2020 and for 2021 because no events have really taken place. But we took the money that was normally given out in grants for project development and tried to deploy that back to all of the organizations, the nonprofit organizations, the arts and culture organizations that had to physically close due to COVID. So I'm happy to say that Melissa's worked on all of that too, and those checks are actually going out before, you know, the CARES Act checks are. And so, Anna, do you have anything else? I don't have anything of real.
We'll just add that also as part of our requests for CARES funding, we have requested and we're doing procurement. We're working with procurement on digital kiosks. So these will be outdoor digital kiosks that we are identifying sites around the city to deploy. So realizing that our citizens and visitors are not accessing information digitally and in new ways, we have this opportunity to put these outdoor digital kiosks that we can, you know, feed information to in real time. And we're working with all the college campuses, with Centra, and with you know, other points like Amtrak and the visitor center and the museum and places like that to deploy these kiosks. So that's another project that we're working on with CARES funding.
And all of those kiosks, you know, those kiosks will allow, I think as we move forward, what we look at for the museum, for tourism, and for economic development is, with everything we do, how do we deploy it virtually? You know, how do we deploy it, you know, with some kind of, you know, hybrid, and then how do we deploy it if the world were to ever, you know, return to normal? So we're trying to do all that. And obviously these kiosks are physical things that are being deployed in places other than the city itself where we have some control. So Anna has been feverishly working on all of that, and that must be done by December 30th as well.
Yes. That's all I
So
have.
good times are had by all here. The only other person that may be as tired as we are is Andy Mueller.
Probably not. No, we're doing okay.
And we have gotten a good response too, Andy, with these CARES Act funds. We offered to everyone that fills out an application, or we offered to them HealthWorks and to have consultations with all of your folks, as well as with the Small Business Development Center, which I think is something else that I haven't seen any other municipality do. And I think we have had a decent response to that, right, Anna?
Yes, we have, and we've shared that with Andy's team and with the SBDC. And I would say, you know, the majority of folks that are completing these applications have opted in for those wraparound services, which is great.
That's great. That's great to hear.
Fantastic. I just think when we have a moment to breathe after this, with all the outreach that's been done, you know, we're going to have a pretty good idea of, you know, what's happening in our own city in a totally different way than I think we ever have before. So I'm really encouraged by all of that. So does anybody have any questions for Anna or I about all of the things?
All right, Anna or Marjette, this is Ted. If you can just tell me who else, it's hard to make sure I get everybody in the minutes. Like, is Emmeline there? Who are?
Emmeline, Alicia, and Melissa are attending, and everyone else I believe you have, they've spoken.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Marjette and Anna, for the update. Next item, we don't have anything that needs to go before closed session. Does anyone have any other questions, issues, concerns to be brought before the committee? There will be a brief meeting of the Finance Committee immediately following this meeting. So if those members could stay on the call, please. Hear no comments, so we are officially adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.